Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about a movie that I've already reviewed, but I decided to come back to it for a second time, just because it was a movie that was on my mind, that being In the Mouth of Madness, and this movie came out in 1994, directed by John Carpenter, starring Sam Neill, and I don't really remember too much about the movie on my first viewing, other than I just found it to be really boring. I wasn't scared by anything, and it was just overall a movie that didn't really connect with me. But this time, after almost 2 years, I decided to revisit the film because it's been on my mind, and I kind of got an itching to watch it again. And I don't know, it was like a movie that people kind of talked about for a little bit, and I heard like people saying, "Oh, it's kind of underrated. You should check it out." And I was like, you know what? I think now's as good a time as any to revisit the film and to see if I like it this time or not. And I actually really enjoyed it this time. There was a lot that I really found interesting about it, and even if a lot of things I think I found on my first viewing, I was like, that's kind of on the nose, but that is kind of what it's trying to be. It's all pretty simple, and to have a lot to think about when you're done with it. And sure, there are flaws in this movie, and I would describe this movie as an incredibly flawed film, but it's also very effective, and there's some great things about it. And Sam Neill, I thought he was really good in this movie. There were a couple points where his accent was a little inconsistent, but for the most part, I thought he was pretty good. I also like the music in this movie, and there's a few different tones that it's going for. Sometimes it's kind of like rock music in the opening credits and end credits of the film, and at some points it's trying to be like kind of subtle and like just in the background, which is something that I really liked. And it's not doing all the work for the scene. It's always there just complementing the scene, while the scene in and of itself works good with or without it. It's just a nice little compliment. And I think John Carpenter describes the music in his movies as wallpaper, and I think that's a good description for it. And I'm sure I've said that before, but I do think that's true, and it really works in this movie. The movie is also very well shot throughout. There are points where it was like visually striking, and some shots looked pretty cool or interesting. And that was something that I really appreciated, is that it's not a terribly shot film. There's things to look at that are interesting, and there's loads to read into the movie, lots to think about. And I kind of like how the author of this movie is basically Stephen King, in a sense. Like, might as well be Stephen King, even though they do reference Stephen King. Like, the big author's name is Sutter Kane, Sutter Kane, Cane. Basically, he's bigger than Stephen King, but I just kept thinking the whole time, in a way, I think this is a movie that describes what John Carpenter thinks of Stephen King. Like, it's kind of funny to think about the movie in that way. There's also really great character moments sprinkled throughout this movie that really stand out to me, with Sam Neill not believing that anything he sees is real. He's always looking for a con or some kind of flaw in something that doesn't make any sense, and you always believe his character is like always looking for something wrong in something, like something doesn't add up, and he's constantly looking for that one thing that makes everything fall apart and just makes sense of it. Like, he's always trying to look at everything with logic. And that was always compelling to me. And there were also a decent amount of comedic moments, and some parts were more subtle than others, but still, I like those moments. I thought that they were very effective when they landed and appeared in the film, whatever you want to call it. And this movie is a horror movie. Don't forget about that. And it is trying to scare you. And I think as a horror movie, I think it's pretty effective at being one. And honestly, there are parts that are like genuinely scary and like striking, like I've said already. And it just works. The horror really works in this film for the most part. The movie does have some jump scares in it, which didn't really do much for me. And the movie stays unpredictable. You don't quite know what's going to happen at any given point. Like, you can sure figure out where things are going to end up because of the beginning of the movie, where it starts with all the events have already happened, and the entire movie is just like a flashback of the main character going through this entire experience. But even if you do know that, everything that leads you from that point to when we eventually come back to it, that section of the movie, like, you have no idea what's going to happen, and it always goes in directions that work for the most part. And there's some really great practical effects in this movie and great makeup that go along with it. And in the third act of the movie, without spoiling anything, it was kind of a mixture between The Shining and The Thing. And the reason why I felt that way is because of the creature designs that we got. That stuff kind of reminded me of The Thing, and the location being set in a hotel, kind of, or in a village, but the amount of times we cut back to a hotel and all these kids and whatnot, they're like, have blood and are like dying and all this other stuff, and those stuff that just reminded me of The Shining and other Stephen King film adaptations. And this movie is nice and short. It's like 95 minutes long, so it's not a huge commitment if you decide to watch this movie. Although I will say this much about it, now that I'm going into my negatives, is that there were some time jumps in this movie that left me thinking, what? What happened? This feels so abrupt, and I have no idea where we're at right now. And most of my issues are kind of just nitpicky things that just really stood out to me, like at the beginning of the movie where we see Sam Neill just doing all these bunch of drawings, but then we realize that he did all of that with a, quote, a single black crayon. I don't know if I believe that he was able to do all of that with just a single black crayon. Multiple black crayons, sure. Just one? I don't know about that. There were also some dream sequences and also some moments where it was flashbacking and flash forwarding at a couple points that I felt could have been cut out of the movie, because I just felt as though it didn't add much. There was also a line that sounded dubbed to me that was a little bit distracting, and there was a scene where Sam Neill's character was walking towards a church and he was reading the book out loud, but I was just thinking to myself, okay, this makes sense of what you're saying. However, when I was thinking about it, the way he was reading it, it was like a word for word as to like what is described in the book. But the way it was said, this is what really confused me, is that in the context of the book, how is this being presented? Because it kind of feels like it's lore of the book rather than just something a character is discovering or any story beat or whatnot. It just felt like it was lore that you could explore in an expansion or whatever. It just felt kind of odd to me. And there were also some dated CG stuff that didn't look all that great, but luckily it's very, very brief. I'll say that much about it. One last thing that I did like about the movie is that this movie does a good job as to what it's like to go insane. Go in the mouth of madness, to make a little pun. And you do feel as though the main character is like going mad and crazy. Like you totally buy it. And there's just a lot that I really like about this movie. So definitely check this movie out. I don't understand why I didn't like this movie the first time. Maybe I was just in a particular mood or something. I have no idea. Maybe I'm just in a particular mood now because I just finished watching a bunch of long movies and I was like, yay, something short. And it just felt like it flew by for me. So that might be a part of it. I don't know. But as of now, I really like this movie. I have some newfound appreciation for it. And I will be revisiting this movie. And I rated this movie, like the first time I watched it, I rated it like pretty unfairly low. And like I was very harsh on it. I know that much. And I gave it like a 3 out of 10, which now I don't feel that way at all. Just to give you a little bit of context. And I'll definitely be watching this movie again, and I would like to own it, but I'm kind of waiting for a 4K Blu-ray to come out. Which, there are some John Carpenter movies that only have a Blu-ray, but no 4K Blu-ray, which is kind of weird, and As a collector, it's kind of difficult to decide which movies to buy and whatnot because you never know if a 4K Blu-ray is going to come out at any point. So I'm just going to wait for a little while for that to happen. But anyways, I'm rambling a little bit. Definitely check this movie out whenever you get the chance. I think it's solid, underrated, and I don't really have much else to say about it. I think it's a pretty good movie. So with all that being said, I'm going to give In the Mouth of Madness a 7 out of 10. I was not expecting to like this movie as much as I did this time watching it, but opinions change, and there's a decent amount of movies that I didn't like that I would like to revisit at some point. Thank you for watching my videos as always. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below you thought of In the Mouth of Madness, and my social media links, they will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for To Catch a Killer. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.